Hi, how's it going? Let's please give it up for Issa Leal, who just definitely a lot of things apply to my life and good times. I'm Ed. If you're not familiar with me, I'm a musician. I do some comedy. I do some podcasts that Dina and I think my friend back home listen to. I've toured around. I've worked a bunch of dead-end jobs, but I've gotten a lot out of that, I think. And in any event, this speech is essentially just talking about me, but not in a masturbatory sense. I'd like to kind of go a little bit more macro with this and think about the individual, the artist, because in many senses I'm in the same position everyone in this room is. We're just kind of getting by, trying to figure out who we are, where we fit in the whole scheme of things, and what our future is, and is that going to be like our parents? Is it going to be something different? And if it is something different, can that be something we're comfortable with? And I'd like to touch on some of these subjects. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you the speech. Like, thought to copyright that for now. Woody Allen once said, "I don't want to live on in the hearts of my countrymen. I want to live on in my apartment." I don't want to live on the hearts of me if I say like that. There's this little man inside of me who would love nothing more than to get stoned and play kangaroo baseball all day, dipping Pepperidge Farm chessmen cookies into infinite cups of coffee, falling asleep to David Attenborough, not in the bed, behave. His voice actually worked that in there. Nothing makes people laugh like a scripted side note. David Attenborough's voice as he speaks of the Japanese spider crab lurking deep in the black oceans that I would rather view from the warm catacombs of my basement room in the punk house where I currently reside at 33. Most guys my age have a black Ford Focus, a steady gig at Fidelity Mutual, and friends who dress appropriately for a non-ironic trip to Outback Steakhouse. This dawns on me as I stand at the slot machine in Verona, New York, too afraid to get into the lion's den, a $5 blackjack table where my brother-in-law holds court, channeling the cool acumen of Kevin Spacey, still waters running deep, a financial advisor, father of two, my niece Julia and nephew David, and husband to my twin sister, who teaches junior high and writes a parental advice column. I am on a distant planet of dick jokes and $50 guarantees. I think some of you have been to this planet. Tonight, I am playing through Fisher-Price speakers to a crowd of drowsy bike messengers in Tulsa, with owl tattoos and 5 o'clock the next day shadows, who upon hearing the first note clear the room save for someone's piss-drunk mom who stuck around for the unintended comedic elements of the evening's performance. Bad sound is like starting off a date with an Anne Frank joke. I wouldn't do it. The rugged brunette-haired mom, with bob cut and one red highlight streak, cups her hand over her mouth as she leans in to talk shit about me to some chucklehead with pre-ripped jeans and a faded orange Texas Longhorn t-shirt. I meet these people in every city, and I can spot them when they walk in the door. If it's a guy, they usually have a shaved head. Like a haircut was something they had to just get out of the way so they could return to the toxic compost bin of Halo, Axe body spray, and mean friends who fuck with anyone who do not have an expression on their face like they have been sitting on a toilet for 10 years reading Papa Roach lyrics. They'll talk reams of shit while you're on stage and afterwards bump cigarettes and ask you if you've heard of Interpol. Joy Division now covered it. You eventually find peace in the notion that most people's ability to connect with anything outside of the box of Beethovens of our time, train, puddle of mud, has been rusted shut by too many drunk Tuesdays at Applebee's, sucking on the opium tit of a Muzak loop, well, popping lab-grown chicken parts, dipped in the fiction of panko breading, coupled but not so subtly nudged flirtation disseminated down from the headquarters to good woman trying to get through law school in a country that would rather cut off its left nut than to make anything easy. That aside, I think it is just this gauntlet that will brazen a man with the stick-to-itiveness one needs to walk through the endless hell of forced conversations and feign interest while somebody pontificates about books you wouldn't read if you were offered the option of a molten hot rod up the ass or pursuing a chapter of Running with Scissors. Awful book. My movie's even worse. My stepdad was a Kennedy Democrat abroad and a Red Fox at home. Red Fox is a comedian. His ritual every workday morning from the fall of 1988 till I left home in January 1999 was throwing out a pot of coffee that tasted something like a cross between boiled popcorn and cat shit. Well, blasting General Patton's famous speech to the Third Army from June 5th, 1944. A speech meant to fire up the boys for Normandy. He played this on the same worn-down Memorex cassette tape, at full volume, out of small purple boombox as he shaved over a kitchen sink with a deeply discounted reservation cigarette dangling from his mouth. Usually a 100 with a name like Heritage or Excelsior. Then he'd slap on excessive amounts of Brut Cologne, a habit which I borrowed for junior high dances, yielding results akin to the kid from Freaks and Geeks who decided to dress all disco for the first day of class. At night, he'd fall asleep drunk to Johnny Horton's Battle of New Orleans. In 1814, we took a little trip, along with Colonel Lexington, off of New Orleans. Fired out guns, all kinds of. Now, he would loop this on an old Rod Stewart single that he taped over, and around 3 a.m. he would make his way to the sofa, too blasted to take the walk up the endless 5-foot-long staircase. Say what you want about the man, but how he did this every day from 1987 to 2007 while teaching special ed full-time. Before that, he worked at a sawmill for 20 years. He's one tough son of the gun, and I hated his guts. I used him as an antonym, a living propaganda poster for becoming Fraser Crane. Or Sting. I wanted to Go ahead. I wanted to transform myself into a mild-mannered Michael Caine, a soft-spoken, erudite guy that you would want to have over for dinner, someone that you would sip tea with and give a warm grin over cups of mist as you talk about small things. With him, everything was so big and bombastic. His warmonger sound collage constantly rattling above my basement room. Complete with depressing Vietnam-era interviews, great to fall asleep to when you're 9. That girl's certainly I should have had to shoot 2 kids. He also insisted on having this huge fucking satellite on the roof that looked like the ion cannon from Empire Strikes Back, which the town had meetings about. Complemented by a Welsh flag half the size of a baseball field, waving from the top of a garage with its red dragon that seemed to say, "I am Thomas Evans. I have claimed this territory on behalf of Wales." All of this is cool if you live on Bear Mountain and hoard Alpha 44 machine guns and piss jars. But it's a tad out of sync if you were, say, living at 25 Merritt Place in a quaint working class suburb. My Sting obsession started as a joke. And then quickly propelled to an unhealthy place where most of my mentorships end up. I would print photos from Sting's interviews at the public library, 10 cents a pop, with free befuddled looks from the librarian thrown in for free. It's really creeped out. I mimic his mannerisms when talking to people. The way he half crosses his arms while scratching his chin. Something I still do to this day. I even tried talking like him at Grand Union when I'd bring back my stepdad's Titanic sized garbage bags of Genesee Light bottles. The bottle attendee would say, "I didn't know you were British." "Neither did I thought." I would make up some excuse like, "Well, my dad is right off the boat." Kind of true. Well, his dad was from England. The last name is Harrison, is his surname. I'll tell you about my Uncle George after the speech. But no, oh yes, could I get the receipt for that, please? And, oh yes, could you point me to the section with Werther's Originals and Coca-Cola, thank you. Around the same time, I was also becoming obsessed with Gandhi and 80s Elton John, which resulted with me dressing in a gold sequin shirt I found at Kaufman's for half off and giving my stepdad hugs when he yelled at me, which just made him pissed off even more. And I'm fast forwarding a bit here. Let's talk more about Sting. Mike Grandinetta was turning 15. This is a good friend of mine. And I knew the two things he disliked most in the world were Sting and Spanish class. So I thought, why not buy him Sting in Espanol? The album was Nada Como Sol, Nothing Like the Sun. The title comes from Shakespeare sonnet, "My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun." Bet you didn't think you were going to get Shakespeare tonight? I was okay. Tip your bartender. I was about to wrap the gag gift when my curiosity got the best of me. Also, the fact was, I want to say parenthetically, at the time I had little to no forms of entertainment. Back then, besides this rudimentary dice game that I invented, my mom's Victoria's Secrets, which led to the porns that, Connor talked about, and was a colon, and WRBO's old-time radio broadcast, which wasn't going to be on for another hour. I unwrapped the tape and popped it in. It wasn't like, "Where were you when you first heard Sgt. Pepper's?" or "Never Mind." But there was something so sweetly mundane and void of machismo, something so Niles Crane about it, that I immediately gravitated towards it without understanding why at the time. I went back to Camelot Music. Now this is an old record store that used to be around. And I traded it back in. Kind of falls in with my whole English thing, Camelot. I wonder what the king's doing tonight. I went back to Camelot Music and traded it in for the English version. My stepsister's boyfriend, Bill, a guy who liked Hellraiser and Faith No More, was behind the counter. Mike Nastatovic, now the whole time, he's like seeing that I'm getting Sting out of Como Sol, he's laughing his ass off. And they're tossing the tape back and forth, monkey in the middle style, over my head with Mike Nastatovic, who was like this local wise guy, who at every opportunity would break my balls. It was just like, every time I went to the mall, it was like a Dean Martin roast or something. Eventually I caught the tape and I ran home with my treasure. The album was in many ways the perfect foil to my stepdad's country music / battle-monger ethos. It was anti-war with songs like "History Will Teach Us Nothing" and "Fragile." Here's an excerpt from the song. On and on the rain will fall, like tears from a straw, like tears from a song. On and on the rain will see how fragile we are, how fragile we are. Sing. Then there was the Englishman in New York. Now this was an upbeat number with keyboards and sax, literally explaining how to be British, alas. Here are some of the lyrics. "I don't take coffee, I take tea, my dear. Like my toast done on one side." It's kind of weird. And you can hear it in my accent when I talk. I'm an Englishman in New York. He even says at one point, it takes a man to suffer ignorance and smile. How Gandhi, I thought. I was into Gandhi at the time. One day, while flipping through the thongs of thinly veiled pornographic posters at Spencer's in hopes of finding some Cindy Crawford shots, I chanced upon an Englishman in New York poster. I could not believe my luck. It was 75% off. Crazy, because everyone in town wants an Englishman in New York poster. One man's junk is another man's treasure. The poster is literally like the whitest thing you could possibly imagine, aside from like a signed photo of Lynn Rosetta Casper opening a Panera Bread on top of a bulldozed row house. I don't think she should do that. The poster. person. It's a nice person. It's ruined your show, ruined your career. The poster, if you... Ed Schrader. Well, that's such a white name, too. Racism is racism. I'm not going to make fun of white people. The poster, if you can picture it, is a sepia-tone shot of Sting sporting a black ascot while clicking his heels in midair, holding a violin in one hand and a bow in the other. And in big italic letters at the bottom it says Englishman in New York. Like the great monk Martin Luther, I posted my Englishman in New York poster in defiance to all that was smoke and Jenny Light, to all that was crude and stomping, to all that was Thomas Evans, my stepdad. A man does not achieve his fullest potential through flags and drums, but with gentle introspection and lifting teeth. Through pretending to be an Englishman in New York, one can truly find escape and salvation from the valley of the mundane, Mohawk Valley, where I was from. My mom would often say that people in Utica are dead, they just don't know it yet. It's a real optimist. I'm from Utica. A quiet Cuban Missile Crisis was brewing at the little yellow house with brown trim. My stepdad writhed in annoyance every time he walked by Sting, who taunted him with his just goofing around gaze and heel-clicking shenanigans. The beer fridge was in the basement, healthy for a kid to have that in the room. The beer fridge was in the basement where my room was, so he would drift through there often, twice a night to reload. It was almost as if he could hear Sting muttering, "I'm going to make your steps on a pansy of infinite proportions. You will no longer be playing baseball. Oh no! He will be playing the strombola and eating yogurt with his legs crossed in a cafe where people drink things called dopios and chocolate mocha lattes and macchiatos. I bet you don't even know what a strombola is, you Welsh bitch." Sting. He has a restaurant in town called the Sting of Siam. Damn, you know that. Welcome to my restaurant. Have a seat. William Cashin is a big fan. Rose a cheap bass player a few times. Playing tomorrow at the Bull's Head. Powerball. I attempted to make my English breakfast tea upstairs in the kitchen, but my stepdad would insist I was in the way. I'd hear him protesting to my mom upstairs. "Nancy's playing fucking mind games. And you know what? Game over. Because I'll fucking move out." Unlike most kids my age, trying marijuana, which I didn't try till I was 30, the Golden West gave me a weed cookie while I was on shift. That's why it's a fucking awesome restaurant. That's why you should go there. I was rebelling by becoming John Tesh, relaxing on a Tuesday. Gotta look at that fucking prick every time I walk down the goddamn stairs. One night he stood in front of the poster and yelled, "I'm not kidding. This is my house. This is my house. This is my house. My fucking house. Game over." With that, he spit at the poster. I watched all this through the basement window screen outside from above because I just got back home from my McDonald's job where I cleaned up dumpsters. Another very uplifting thing from my childhood. I was upset, but the whole thing was so comical that I couldn't hold in the laughter, and I just burst out laughing. And he shot right outside into the stone gravel driveway and, "You're grounded! You're grounded for a fucking month!" I couldn't stop laughing. Look at my face! Look at my face! Look at my face! Look at my shit brown eyes with your baby Jesus blue eyes! And laugh at a man! I forgot to mention, he was only wearing black Speedos. He would turn the heat up to 90 degrees starting in September and walk around like that with his can of Jenny and his patriotic cigarettes. Well, despite the fact that I knew what harm I was bringing upon myself, I couldn't stop laughing. And then suddenly he bolts downstairs, the wobbly wooden stairs with his bare, dirty feet, and rips the poster off the wall and tears it off. I win! I think this incident solidified something in me. I thought, you can tear down my poster, but I will forever have a semi-fake British accent, and I will dress like Brian Eno on holiday in Sardinia. Now, as a man almost 20 years later, I know that all I was doing was fending off the influence of the most consistently present, for better or worse, adult man in my life. He was as much a dad as I was ever going to get. Sometimes he talked me into joining him for a beer, and he'd play me A Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash. And well, the gist of the song, if you've never heard of it, there's a deadbeat dad. He takes off with his wife and son, but at the last minute, right before he leaves, he considerately decides to name his son Sue. Since he wasn't going to be around to raise him, he figured, well, the next best thing, in his logic, was giving him this girl's name, because according to Cash's character, son, this world is rough, and if a man's going to make it, he's got to be tough. And I knew I wouldn't be there to help you along, so I gave her that name and said goodbye, and I knew you'd have to get tough or die. I'm in San Francisco. I'm at some dimly lit bar with flash tattoos and defeated wanderers who drink for free in black t-shirts. Something in them has been convinced to just hate this before it even begins. Boys with beards who have never cleaned toilets for a living,